Welcome to our fifth session in our discussion in employee relation. Last week we looked at collective bargaining agreement, where we specifically looked at a number of issues. For example, we looked at the objectives of collective bargaining agreement. We looked at the essential conditions for a successful collective bargaining. We also explored different types and forms of collective bargaining. And also we looked at the definition and the eventual document after the collective bargaining process, which we looked at the collective bargaining agreement. We also explored the basis of collective bargaining systems in Kenya and the role of labor laws in influencing collective bargaining. And finally, we looked also at the importance of collective bargaining in employment relationship. This week, therefore, we want to cover a new topic which is very key in employee relations and affects many organizations. And we will be starting with a discussion on grievances and dispute handling machinery. We'll look specifically into three areas in this session, as we'll be covering the rest in the next session. First, we want to understand the definition of the term grievance and dispute. Two, we will also explore the various causes of grievances and their classification. And number three, we'll be looking at the grievance settlement procedures. And finally, we'll be looking at the industrial disputes and their causes in general. Starting by definition, we can say that a grievance is a feeling of dissatisfaction or even resentment or discontent over someone, something, or even a situation that a person or groups of persons perceive or believe to be wrong or to be unfair by either employees or by a group of employees at their workplace. Grievances may be about, for example, a work process, or it may be even about something that has even happened or that is continuously happening at the workplace and which the employee feel that is not pleasing to them. On the other hand, dispute can be defined simply as a disagreement or a discontent or even an argument that arises between two or more people. Disputes at workplace generally are normally referred to as labor disputes. Therefore, labor disputes may include but are not limited to conditions of employment. They may be about fringe benefits, they may be about hours of work, they may be about tenure, or even about wages that employees receive at the workplaces. There are different causes of grievances and disputes, and for the purpose of discussion, I have organized them around some different topics. But generally, we say that grievances within organizations are normally caused by violation in general. And the violation could be violation about the collective bargaining agreement that had been reached between the employer and the employees. It could be about past practices that have been implemented within the organization over time. It could be about labor laws. It could be about policies and procedures and practices of the organization. It could be about workers' rights as enshrined either by the Constitution or by the various regulatory framework. Again, it could be about management responsibility, where management has failed to implement their responsibility. Now, the four main topics that I want to discuss these grievances will, for example, be the first category, grievances that result from working conditions. And number two, I will be discussing about grievances that arise from bad, or what we call a bad physical conditions at the workplace. Also, we could also classify in the third category as grievances that result from policies and regulation. Last but not least, we have grievances that result from personal maladjustments. In terms of working conditions, there are many things that can raise grievances on employees. For example, improper matching of work with the job. whereby the skills of employees are not properly matched with the jobs that they undertake. Changes in work schedule or procedures can also raise grievances. Poor safety and bad physical condition are unrealistic targets, where employees are given targets that they are not able to manage, either based on the capacity or even the time itself. And lastly, non-availability of proper working tools, where employees are given tasks to accomplish, but they are not equipped with the proper tools to be able to undertake their jobs. When we look at the physical working conditions, there could be, for example, failure to maintain proper discipline on employees, negative approaches towards discipline, and even poor relationship between employees and the supervisors. Could also be some very serious sources of grievances within the organization. Looking at things like management policies and regulations, we see or we understand that an organization should be able to provide proper policies to enable management of work. Therefore, things like failure to implement these policies and procedures in a proper way, or even having these policies and procedures in place, can also be sources of grievances. And therefore, we have situations like denying employees to go on leave when their leave fall due, issues to do with overtime, issues to do with seniority, frequent transfer of employees, considering that again, these employees have families and probably they would want to have a settled kind of a life. All this could be able to raise grievances. Issues to do with promotions, lack of proper career planning for your employees, hostility towards the union, lack of regards to collective bargaining agreement. All this and many others could be sources of grievances within the organization. When we look at grievances that arise due to personal maladjustments, these are normally due to personal characteristics or features among the employees, which again can lead to grievances. Overambition, where employees are too ambitious to be able to achieve their personal goals at the workplace without regard to things like progression within a specified period of time. Impractical attitude toward life can also be source of grievances. Poor relationship with team members, poor relationship with seniors, and conflict with peers. All these could be sources of grievances within an employee's workplace. Now, when grievances arise, and they will always arise, like in many situations in life, people who live together, there will be scenarios whereby people will not be happy about the way things are happening, and those could be grievances. Remember, as from our definition, we said that grievances could be either justified or unjustified. And therefore, whichever way, whether they are justified or not justified, it is proper to put in place a proper mechanism to be able to settle these grievances when they arise. First and foremost, we should be able to understand that grievance handling practice can be either formal or can be informal. The procedure also will depend on whether the grievances are either personal, meaning that they are grievances about a specific individual, or whether they are collective. For individual grievances, we therefore say that the employee should be able to raise the grievance with the supervisor, and when there is no settlement, either the employee himself or the supervisor should be able to escalate that to the next level in management. This will continue all the way up to the highest level within the organization until the matter is resolved. Where the matter is not resolved, then the union representatives can be able to be involved, and the matter will be resolved. If not resolved within the organization by the chief executive officer or the managing director, then it can now be escalated to another level. Other than individual grievances, collective grievances are handled in a slightly different way. In most cases, collective grievances should be handled in a formal way because they normally touch on more than one people. And the process also starts by raising the grievances to either the line management or the union, and even the representatives of the union. After that, it goes through the entire process within the internal environment, and when it fails, the parties can now seek conciliation through, let's say, the joint negotiation council. And in this environment, when there is a disagreement, then it can be escalated to the conciliators through the Ministry of Labor. And when disputes still exist and there is failure in terms of the resolution, then it can be escalated by either party to the Employment and Labor Relations Courts. Lastly, we want to look at industrial disputes. And just we say that just as in the environment for grievances, disputes also considered or called industrial disputes normally cover a number of things. Mainly they arise due to failure in terms of agreement between the employer and the employees. And there are a number of causes, again, just like grievances. It can be caused due to wages and allowances, profit sharing disagreement between the employees and the employer failing to recognize the union, issues to do with leave and working hours, violation of labor laws and collective bargaining agreements in general, indiscipline and violence by the employee or even from the employer side. Therefore, all this could lead into serious disputes within the organization, and at the same time can escalate to grievances whereby there could be total disagreement between the employees and the employers. I wish to thank you for participating in this session today as we look at the next part, where we'll be discovering or discussing other issues that are very important and pertinent about grievances and dispute handling mechanism. Thank you so much, and thanks for listening.